Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Nachiketa loves the intro. Good to have you, Nachiketa. How's it going, buddy? Missed you. Raph, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Andreas?
You ever had that Tori no Taki? You know what I'm talking about? Tori no Taki?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's you don't know what I'm talking about? It's a kind of a raw chicken that the Japanese make. It's a savory raw chicken. It's a delicacy of Japan. Look at that. It's like a kind of ahi tuna of chicken, right?
What it makes me think of is this tonkatsu, no? But I don't know if that's usually raw or if that's any kind of pig. But it's just funny because basically this is Wiener Schnitzel. So
yeah. No, the tonkatsu is cool. I was about to say, like, that's totally fine. Like, that's reasonable. Like, if you want to have a breaded, cooked piece of Wiener Schnitzel between two pieces of club bread, what's even happening here with the tonkatsu sandwich? All right, that's cool. The tonkatsu curry.
Also this Schnitzel Semmel, you know, so like bread and Schnitzel would be the traditional Viennese Schnitzel Semmel.
With a bit of lemon. Page isn't working. I do love my Wiener Schnitzel. There's a great place that they shut down around here that was like in Silicon Valley, and it was just a German board game place that had beers and Wiener Schnitzel. And I don't know, like, it didn't last the Trump election. I feel like that. There's something about it that they were just too worried about it. But the raw chicken, Japanese taku, right? It's it seems like kind of dangerous. Probably shouldn't eat like raw chicken. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I only experimented with raw fish. I mean, most people did eat raw fish.
Yeah, but raw fish is different, right? Because it's not like some scary like devolved reptile. You know, like birds are disgusting.
I did eat a raw egg at some point, but I don't think I ever ate raw chicken. Well, people eat raw beef all the time, no? Or almost raw.
Yeah, I eat raw beef all the time, like the Ethiopian kitfo. It's a kind of like, you know, glub. You get it glub, which is the Ethiopian raw version of it, right? It's like kind of like a steak tartare. Steak tartare is popular. That can be safe if it's done right, you know. Like, it can be dangerous too if it's like the industrialized cattle. I missed that. Sorry, what did he say? In Korean, don mean pig, but also mean monkey. It depends on the season.
Money, not monkey.
Oh my God.
Money.
All right. That's way better. I'm glad that pig means money instead of monkey, because I was thinking like maybe there's like a seasonal difference, right? Like when you eat the monkey.
Oh, it's monkey season.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know if Koreans eat monkeys. I know that some like New World South American tribes eat monkeys. Like it has some popularity in Africa, but it's like, you know, pretty much just forbidden at this point. But it seems like eating mammals kind of weird, right? Like the Japanese don't even like to eat. Well, the Japanese eat dolphins, though. Now thinking about it, the Japanese do love to eat mammals, sea mammals, right? So.
I wonder who taught them that.
Yeah, right. Probably the Scandinavians. Oh, let me pull up the Neuropa page. So Raph, as you guys know, is the best of guests, and he has a co-host status. I saw you guys call him a guest, and I was like, well, really, you know, I consider this guy doing all the work, the co-host. So check out his Comency.at Neuropa 5 June 2024 link stream. And so every show, there are links now, so you can find your way to things we're talking about in the episode. And the first thing apparently is this, you know, interesting talk with Chloe.
Yeah, so I only tuned in a little bit. I was doing other things yesterday, and I just want to point out that you always have great guests. That's all basically. And this was particularly interesting because they were talking about, you know, the nothingness and unity of existence and the Ein Sof Hour. So that's, of course, also highly interesting to me, especially now in an attempt to potentially delineate whatever patterns are within the so-called religion of Osiris meta pattern of modern religions, and whatever other maybe former Sunnah type or old Christian, old Jewish, old Muslim type understanding there is, and, you know, what the real differences are or not.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, I definitely need to work on myself because I talk a lot more than I need to when I'm trying to interview people. But I was trying to also, like, I've had Chloe on before, And so I felt like it was okay to like just kind of have it be like a regular panel. But it would be good also for people to watch the episode I've done with Chloe and some of her other talks. Like she's done conversations with Jordan Peterson. She's done I think she's done a debate either on or with Andrew Tate, which is also an interesting thing. But
Oh,
she
really?
was,
Andrew Tate is the next guy.
yeah. But she's like she's really cool. Like we vibe a lot on integration of the shadow, right? And so we talk a lot about that. She likes Jungian psychology. When we first met at the Tim cast, it was just sort of like the only part of our conversation we can remember is just the amount of like words we used that were like educational terms, just to see how like kind of like we introduced ourselves by explaining like, yeah, no, I studied that. Yeah, I know I studied that too. And it was just like this weird, like, okay, we know all, we can talk about Hegel, we can talk about Jung, we can talk about Freud, we can talk about psychoanalysis. Those would be very useful things to bring up in front of people. So I hope to have Chloe do more and to do things in the future. I think Raph, I'd like to have you do an episode with Chloe at some point.
Great, yeah, let's do it. Definitely. So yeah, just pointing out, Andreas has the best shows. Check it out. Go on the live page. There's so many shows, and I would
Well,
say
since
all
you're
of
gonna do
them
that, I might go check out. Like you did
have
a
not been seen.
couple cool things recently too. For one thing, Nachiketa has actually been doing some really cool videos, and you guys
Oh
did
yeah,
a
right.
lot.
I almost forgot to mention last time. Go back on his videos
Yeah,
because I had mentioned all the new Fomenko stuff that came out on Sergio Balboa's channel and all the translations. But what Nachiketa actually did is he read out, I think, the first like most basic book of Fomenko. I forgot which one, but Fomenko has like a summary book, and he read that out. And as you can see here, he's even read out, all kinds of other things as well.
yeah.
Rulers of Evil. So anyone who wants to have a guided audio book version, and scroll up a bit. Maybe if I mentioned this already, not so far.
Yeah, I went too far. Sorry.
And you went to you went to
My
live.
word, that's what happened. Okay, hold on. Let's try that
Scroll
again.
down a bit, yes, until you see the symbol, which is very obvious, the octagon symbol. Yes, here. I'm not sure if I had mentioned this before, but Nachiketa actually managed to interview Sean Ross. This guy.
Oh wow.
Are you familiar with him? I'm
No.
not sure if I mentioned this before. So Sean Ross is the guy. He has interesting channels called GIUREH, but if you just look him up, HROSS, you don't have to do it right now. OSS, Sean, SEAN. Sean, yes. Yes, great. I think I brought him up before, at least at some point, because he even visited this Rothschild castle and God knows what.
Right.
And he claims to be, let's say, a type of renegade remnant of a royal family. He was born in South Africa. And the interesting thing he does is he just lays out this idea that, let's say, there are two control factions that for us would appear to be monolithic, but they actually are, he calls them the royalist pharaonics or pharaonic royalists and the pharaonic republicans, whereas the first group would do with primogenitors, so the firstborn inherits everything and so on. And then out of that movement, this could even relate to what Fomenko and Nosovsky talk about with the old Ottoman Empire, and then have it switched, or have the other group that wants a republican approach, just meaning, oh, not the firstborn takes it all, but we will have something akin to elections or selections, so that different royal families members can play king at different times at different regions. That's at least one, let's say, a distinction that he gives. And I found it quite interesting, especially then comparing it with what Gleb Nosovsky talks about with the apostolic Christianity and the royal Christianity. And I'm not necessarily saying these groups exactly overlap, but just, going through history, attempting to delineate some kind of patterns. I found this very interesting. And you can see that what Sean Ross is saying, for example, China, Russia would be more of the royal side, in terms of there is one guy who's just ruling forever, even though he's also just an actor, but maybe in the background, right? And in other systems, you have it more like an open system, or you would have elections, and you allow the people to believe they can choose who they want, but actually you just put from your different royal families or whatever exalted individuals, you put different ones in a pseudo competition, let's say. Yes, so definitely worth checking out Sean Ross's work. He also talks a lot about Switzerland and the Knights Templars. He has a few documentary style things. Usually you can see it on his top videos. And so Nachiketa made an interview with him, which is great. And here you can see him, I guess, chilling somewhere in France at a McDonald's. So this guy's kind of on the run for the past decades, it seems. And even
Best
got
place
thrown
to
into
do podcasts is probably from French McDonald's. It's crazy.
Yeah. And he mentions himself, he even got thrown into jail by the Swiss police, I guess, ultimately for, speech violation or something, or just saying things they're not so happy with, because especially he's, revealing the role of Switzerland in different conflicts and how, of course, they are not only so innocent and benign, but that there are reasons, and Switzerland just like as a base, for the elite, which I guess is obvious with Bank of International Settlements, Davos. But it's so common, let's say, of course, that even officially Kim Jong-un had his elementary education in Switzerland. So
it's just interesting to me thinking about like the Mayans and like how like they worshipped cacao, how important cacao was to the empire, and Nestle today, right? Like there's no change. The most elite people in the world still control all the cacao.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nestle like doesn't really sell cacao. They sell, coca, which is like alkaline powder that's been made out of cacao, like chocolate. Like what we experience is not really cacao. Not
yes.
Like
if I can only tell everyone, I mean, I'm pretty sure, Andreas, you've tasted real raw cacao.
There's a picture of me right after I ate the cacao. So I ate cacao.
So you can eat that, but you can get these raw cocoa blocks, right, which still contain the fat.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I mean, probably different prices, maybe would be about, $40-50 per kilogram.
Yeah.
But still, if you calculate it up, it's a lot cheaper than if you get this processed chocolate, right?
A lot
and
better.
To anyone who likes chocolate, I cannot recommend this enough to just, eat it, maybe eat it with a date, maybe start, experimenting with it. You can make your, chocolate in a mixer or something. It tastes so amazing, and it's so healthy compared to whatever you could possibly buy, because the fat contains all the relevant nutrients, the vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins, magnesium, God knows what else. So it's really great, and it gives a really good mood. So yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot less fat in a cacao bean than in average nuts. I think it's like one of the lowest fat content of any nut, which is also why there's so much condensed nutrients in the fat content. So there's a lot of reasons why you should use cacao. And there's a lot of reasons why like Mayan emperors, lived off of it. And it's like an energy supplement too. So like to replace caffeine, I feel like cacao is pretty good.
Yes. It's amazing. I love it. So yeah, we can go on. I tried to categorize the things we have a little bit on the list, and so here we don't even have to watch it. This is just
So we'll now look at like low key my favorite YouTuber. I'll admit it. Asman, Zach's pretty much my favorite YouTuber, I've decided.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't watch him that often, but again and again I'm surprised. And even once, he sent me that clip where it became obvious, like some of these guys, you're not only suspecting that they are not only, let's say, fun gamers, but some of them actually, how should I say?
Oh, gee, you think a guy who's good at game theory might be... Sorry.
Game theory, yeah. Well, yes. If they really are, well, yes, of course. I mean, who knows? One day, I was even about to say maybe because of this interview or another one, or the one you sent, right? So I put the third one up as well.
Let's put that up in a second. This is something I saw him do yesterday, and I'm like, I'll be honest, like really excited about the stuff Zach is doing. And he's an interesting character. Like I don't want to tell the story for him, but like he's already told it to everybody, so you can just check it out. But he's a successful YouTuber who is a World of Warcraft Legion hero, essentially someone who's done World of Warcraft to the point of being like remembered in song, but like also his mom was a super obese lady who died like in a fire accident. Like she nearly lit her own oxygen tank on fire, and he had to like put it out before the oxygen tank exploded. And he's just been through so much like crazy stuff. So he doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He's really worried about like weight and everything. So he's scared. Like but he's such a normal guy on that level. Like he's just scared about things and wants to try to live as long as possible. So it's interesting to see like that. But then he's just doing this new thing where he's building a game expo thing. This is like the most unusual way to look at him probably, is to see him doing this like regular in crowd like Hollywood style television show. But this is what his new plan is to find people that are trying to make games and to popularize. Like Cash App has sponsored this thing. Well, like this is the first of it. This just happened. But like Cash App is sponsoring it. So basically all of these indie gamers are going to be able to get their games seen and heard, and like games he's interested in, which is pretty cool. But
just as we're on the topic of games, you may want to pull up the very first link under Magic on my list, just because it fits right here. D&D jobs. Yes, we can listen to this, I think.
Oh, okay. Let me put on the audio share version. Let me start over. And then where's how do I click audio? Up here. There you go.
The cinematics that Blizzard has ever had because of Dungeons and Dragons. Did you know that? My dad was a plumber when he applied at Blizzard. And he was doing some side art stuff, I believe, for Rock and Roll Racing way back in the day. He brought his D&D stuff to work one day, and it was either Alan or Mike saw it on his desk and was like, "What's this?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just my D&D stuff." And they looked through it and they're like, "Why didn't you tell us about this in the interview?" And they hired him.
Totally.
My dad was the cinematic director for Blizzard Entertainment for 20
Blizzard's
years.
like
Every single cinematic you've ever seen, all the ones you loved, all along the way, that's him and his team because of Dungeons and Dragons. D&D is a serious thing in the games industry. Do not forget it.
Yeah, it's 100% true. There was a Blizzard documentary that just came out like a couple years ago, Blizzard games, and it was really fascinating to see. I don't know where, like, but yeah, now the whole company's changed. Like, they all had to they basically left because they got like conquered. It was really sad. Blizzard, you could follow their story, but what they were a company that really loved gamers, and so you had to game to work at the company, and they had people playing other games, and they were like, okay, well, what kind of game do you loved a game, right? Like, play Farmville. And they got people addicted to Farmville who worked at the company, so they could figure out how to add some of those things into World of Warcraft, and things like that. Like, they're really, really an interesting company. And there's all these pictures of them just like playing Magic cards all the time in between like work all the time. But yeah, now all these companies are being destroyed. Like, all of these they all started as like little teams, and then corporations like Microsoft are like, we need to buy them, and then they just buy them for a particular project, and then they just like galvanize and shut down the teams, or try to force the teams to make like the pay to win online games, which they don't want to do necessarily. Like,
I mean, it's kind of funny again, just like Microsoft effed up with, Microsoft itself, Windows itself, and then with Internet Explorer and antitrust and so on, where you see Bill Gates rocking like this, supposedly.
Where is that? Did you have that link?
No, I don't have it. Oh no, I'm just mentioning this because again, now they do it with the games industry, and why I brought up the guy you saw just now from Pirate Software is because he's also doing indie game jams and so on. So anyone who's into indie games or is developing, this is another place you can go to. And yeah, he seems like an.
Hold on, let me pull up a link really quickly too. So Tim Sweeney, my new Tim, has posted What a Nightmare about this link. So Kevin Beaumont posted this Ars Technica enabled recall on Windows 11 box and tested the claim that only you can access your recall. Do you guys know about the recall feature? Have you heard of this?
It sounds like some kind of a system reset or something.
Real quick, yeah. Basically, Windows Copilot, which is a new version of Windows, has a feature that is to recall anything you've done. It takes a screenshot and records a little bit of audio, I believe, but I'm not sure. But I think it does. It takes screenshots every few seconds, and it stores it up so that you can always see what you've been doing forever. Like the same way that the CIA or the NSA would record you. And you could then access it, though, and you could say, all right, well, this is what was going on at that point if something happened on screen. So for safety, for security, for convenience, there's a lot of reasons why one might use this. Like I use software very similar to this. I'll use software that I can virtualize my Mac Mini on my phone while I'm out. You know what I mean? Like I can have my computer running at home. Like these are practical things. The problem is you should be able to turn them off. So Ars Technica tested the theory because they said, oh, well, you should be able to turn it off, right? And so they tried that. By logging in as another user, they could access the database and all the screenshots, right? So they created a new user account. And not only that, on machines that they supposedly weren't having recall running, they found that it had all of this anyway, and recall was happening anyway. So it's funny to me, like
I'm sorry, how is that possible?
Because which part?
Logically, because like if I'm Microsoft.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's funny because the idea that companies make mistakes and that Windows has errors is accepted. The idea that the error is that it's too efficient is a new thing.
And not just that,
it
but
used
the
to be
idea
that it was like
I mean,
inefficient.
I can understand if they say, okay, it's turned off, maybe it's not really turned off. I can understand that part, and you have to find it. Or if you say it's, well, what I cannot understand basically is if they claim they want to make it secure and they will know someone will check something, how could they have such a low level of security around that feature that I create another user account on the same computer and have access to it? You see what I'm saying?
I feel
like
like
level one thing
security.
to
Like
test.
if you've done any amount of actual security work or any have any expertise or familiarity, it doesn't really exist. All you can really do is have high levels of handshake trust. So you could have like a 3-level verification system where you take
look, what I'm thinking of is on Linux, you have file permissions. It's very simple.
No,
and
file permissions is
even
not
in
enough.
Windows,
You can cheat file permissions. You could like someone could hack your file permissions really quickly if they were trying
anything
to.
could be hacked. Of course, what I'm talking about here is, if I understood this article correctly,
there's not enough encryption at all. Yeah.
Somebody just created another account in the same system and looked up some files or whatever. I mean,
right.
sorry,
And
that's
the way
like no security
work
at all.
Is that you should have PGP or something. You should have some sort of a PGP encryption key that for your account locks all of your data that another account can't see. So there should be something that's constantly encrypting. I know that that's basically how the iPhone works. So it might be presumed that Microsoft is working on something like that, but even then it doesn't really matter because that data is somehow being recorded before it's being encrypted. So the likelihood of that data being stored a second way, it's not probable that you will have privacy in the future. And this is kind of the example of that.
Yes, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So they're almost like, oh, we're just going to implement it. We're not going to even put any security at all because ultimately it won't matter anyways.
Yeah, ultimately it's
kind
like,
of the logic.
Who cares?
We're giving you the future right now, There you go.
What a nightmare, says Tim. Yeah. So, but you also, let me pull up. Is this the other why AI's tech is the latest hoax?
So here, this is just to counteract because there is another clip just after that where it's Asmongold.
Oh yeah, we'll start with the Asmongold.
AI just got insanely better.
Yeah,
and this is actually an interesting one because if this is correct, again, it shows like voice communication, and now it really sounds, the voices sound human because they added enough emotion, and at least
it sounds like it's trying to have sex with you.
Yeah, and on this demo, they even talk to each other quite effectively, it appears. And I was like, just from the speech synthesis I'm familiar with, this really is another level. And if that can be on the regular, then that is an improvement.
There are a couple of things I would say is like Asmongold already said it though, and so that's why I haven't really brought it up, but it's pretty obvious and it's true, and I agree with this point, which is that there's like a kind of brain dead or a kind of scared that exists in the world. That is like, oh, like AI, it's so terrible. Like it looks at where things are right now and sees that it's not perfect, in some way, and then says, oh, well, it's terrible and it'll never be great. And so it's just really stupid because you see every day AI get better and better and better in ways that humanity takes a lot longer to do. So anybody who's saying like, it's funny, like while he's showing this video, people are like, oh, this is probably faked. And he's like, it's probably not, like, because why would you sell your product, which is free to people, Like if there's no way for them to do the thing you're trying to get them to do. So they're trying to get people to do this because the money they're making is from studying you doing the thing. So on one hand, it's definitely true. Like there's no question. I've done this, and now you can access ChatGPT 4.0 for free. You don't get it like forever, but you can use it every day. You can have multiple email addresses. Like there's ways to use. You can be talking to a man, a woman, a beast of the field, and like translating it however you want. So all that works. But the real thing is, even if it's not quite perfect, and it is basically perfect, if it was not quite perfect, like, do you really believe that tomorrow it won't be? Like, are you really that, like, where's your faith come from? I just don't have that.
I mean, okay, faith, if we talk about that,
it's like that's basically what it is. It's faith that AI won't, like, it's faith that AI will stumble. That's all people like, and I get that. Like, if you have faith that, like, the president will trip, like, okay, like,
I think it's another thing. So I'm not debating that there are advantages and developments. The thing, I guess, in this video, the critical video, is more about they create a hype around it, like with .com or whatever, and then there's a nice comment on the why the AI is tech's latest hoax. I like the first comment. You have it on the other tab. You can just scroll
This was
down.
also really funny because he's asking him how he looks, and the thing never calls him bald, which was really cool. Good for AI. Wait, which one did you want me to go to?
Not just the tab on the top. You have the other tab.
The AI is, yeah.
And then just scroll down on the comment. I thought the comment was fun. So as with any gold rush, the only one making money is the one selling shovels and beer, which in this case is NVIDIA. I mean, they definitely make money. What I just think is that so often they're making claims now about what is possible, and then just many companies don't deliver. Just like with crypto, you could do many things, and I'm sure many things did improve, but I don't know all the things that were promised in 2017 and how many of those really materialized, right? Or turned out to be really practical and effective. That's number one. And number two, of course, is what is the tech that is actually could be available, and how much is this just being drip fed? And latest with this whole Sora thing or whatever, with these videos, I don't know, is this like half in open beta yet or nothing or something? So it's obvious that there is also an artificial delay and artificially timed release of certain upgrades, however that works in the back.
Did you see did you see this Nerds 2024?
I'm not sure.
This is the guy who runs NVIDIA,
right? And he's signing on her breasts or something?
Yeah. This is Revenge of the Nerds 2024, dude. This is where we're at. You got the dude making video cards, signing breasts.
In a way, yeah.
And this is his legal team. It's like, that's where we're at. Nerds have done pretty well for themselves. Yeah, it's true. And they're naming the new. I found this interesting because the episode we did with Lore, from X-Files and a bunch of shows, the Synchromystic lady, she was talking about how her ex-husband's dog was named Ruben, and that was the same day that NVIDIA announced that their new supercomputer, artificial intelligence, they're naming Ruben, which I thought was like such a weird choice. It's not that weird, but it's kind of weird. It's like a very like Ashkenazi Jewish name. It's not a very Asian name, not a very American name perspective. It could be like related to like, NVIDIA's Israeli team. Like, I'm not exactly sure why, but it just seems really interesting to have, like, when we're thinking about like Kabbalah and Synchromysticism and technology, that they would be tying it to the Reuben, right?
Can you give me the, let's say, mythological reference for that?
So the 12th tribe, or one of the 12 tribes, I think it's the 12th tribe of Israel. So was the first of the 6 sons of Jacob, was Reuben, founder of the Reuben tribe, right? And the Reuben tribe is in the pale green. No, up here in Asher, I think it's up here, right? So they're up north. And
I mean, generally, it shouldn't be too surprising that they're using this type of. I mean, what else should they use? Greek? They could use Greek gods, but
yeah, normally you'd use like a Greek god, or you'd use a Roman goddess, or you could use a number. Like NVIDIA likes to use numbers most of the time, but for projects they've had names like the Jetson. You know what I mean? Like the names that they choose are usually more like that. So like for me, I was thinking for a lot of the programmers involved who are not Kabbalah inclined, they're going to be thinking it's like a sandwich. They're going to be thinking it's like the Reuben sandwich. So that's, and then that might come up later if we talk about some other things.
I mean, although you probably, maybe, well, do you get to program a supercomputer without being hip to those things? I don't know.
That's the question. I think
You
a lot
don't
of people
get to be a
do. I
Simpsons
think a lot
writer
of people
without
do.
it, so.
Because I think it is true that a lot of people don't study those things and just focus on doing specific, like you do narrow, you don't do wide. And so it's the people at the top that seem to like understand that more. But yeah, it's not necessarily that everyone has to understand like the mystical aspects of it.
Of course not. Of course not. I'm just wondering, like, how long could you work in those positions and be like, oh, why does the creative team or whoever always come up with these fancy names?
Yeah, I think that you do get ingrained with it, that there's sort of like it's a game to them though. Like, oh, it's a metaphor.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We play magic cards and there's little stars on everything. This is the most important video I've seen all year. This is my favorite video.
I didn't manage to get through all of it yet. So this is like some crazy rabbit hole. Maybe
so I would start by saying Fillion did the video. So if you go to Fillion's channel, and Fillion's cool too. I actually really like Fillion. He's got like a pretty interesting vibe and information he puts out too. But he put out a video called the Bored Ape. Is it going to be up here? The Bored Ape Nazi Club. And he's also done a video, The Cult of Mormonism. Like, there's a lot of things he's done, and I don't like agree with everything he says, but it's hard to question this video. I think this video does a pretty good job pointing out some things. And so specifically, we watched. You go back to that, the Asman reaction of the Bored Ape Nazi Club, and it ends with him actually calling because he sees that Asman's watching it, and so he does a quick interview with Fillion at the end of this video. So I would recommend honestly watching Asman's version instead of watching the original version, just because then you also get the interview with him talking about things at the end. But yeah, what did you think about what you saw so far about this? Basically, the story is that the Bored Ape the Bored Ape NFT token is made by a group of people that have a bunch of interest in sacred geometry, secret symbolism, and it would seem like fascist or alt-right. That's the thing. They're trying to like label this, and they'll say, "Oh, look at this! It uses a lot of
So
symbolism."
this is the one question, of course,
symbols,
now,
right?
if they are attributing it correctly in terms of how it was intended. Because first, I would be like, who would do this? Like,
obviously, many people would do this. Like, so first off, yeah, all right, like think about it. Like, you're an artist that's trying to sell money to people. You sell art for money to people. Like, you want as much money as possible.
So
you
they
want
made
to
good money with the NFTs in the end.
Wait, what?
They made good money with the NFTs in the end, because I didn't completely catch it. I was watching
it
on the side, but
they did to begin with. So hold on, let's just start at the beginning. Like, because also you have to understand how this is probably associated with intelligence, right? The same thing with like the FTX, where you pump a bunch of money in, you get a $1 billion from the government, and then you can put $5 billion in from Ponzi scheming idiots, right? Because they're going to flood into the thing. And then you can study everybody, and you can see what's going on and who's using that money. And you can learn a lot more about the para economy, there's a para economy which is developed on purpose, because after the marijuana California like paralegal status and cartels in Mexico and things like that, there's been a kind of laissez-faire free market.
You're saying the mafia is moving to NFTs.
So illegal things that are tolerated are free market, right? At a certain point, if something's illegal but nobody stops you from doing it, there's no more permits or licenses required, right? So all of a sudden it becomes free market. So then if you have a free market, you usually want to close it down. But if you have control over your license of free market in a small area, you can study it, and then you can see what's happening for the future. And I think that's really what was going on with a lot of that. And so with the NFTs particularly, you create this art project that is about the future of man, you know, and what you see as man is. And man is a bored ape in this post, not quite apocalyptic, but eschatologically, like the end of civilization, right? So you're living in the ruins of Athens. You're living in a swamp, right? And you're on a boat that's like the post-deluge boat. And there's a lot of symbols that they put into the video that you'll see that are like associated with like Nazis, but also with Arabs or anything else. The reason I think is because the inversion, right? You're seeing something that you have a strong emotional reaction to, and then you invert it. So you might say, oh, that's horrible. Like they've taken like Nazi symbolism and they've made it into art. But, you know, the Nazis did the same thing. Just they've taken a Vedic symbol and turned it into, you know, a military symbol. Like for all you can say, like I'm trying to be as objective as possible when I say this, good or bad, I'm throwing out for a second. But it was used for a military symbol, right? Like that's the way to look at it. Whereas, what is the Bored Apes doing? And in their defense, they're taking hate symbols and turning them into things people love and value. So it's an inversion on one level that's actually respectable because they're counterbalancing and neutralizing the hate in a symbol. And I strongly think that's an important thing to do. But when you look at it, you can't tell people things like that. Like it's far easier to fool somebody than it is to convince somebody that they've been fooled, right? So this has come up before with that girl who did like the fake pregnancy. Everyone was cool with it when she was faking her pregnancy, but as soon as she admitted it and tried to explain to people how YouTube works, then they're calling her a con artist. And it's like, you know, like so they did the same thing, I think, with the Bored Ape in a lot of ways. Like they're showing but it's such an important video for people that don't understand how 4chan works. I feel like we really should just have like a 4chan hour weekly or monthly to explain how it's a think tank that puts together the propaganda in such a way that people will trigger, respond to it, and move right towards reaction. I don't want to say hate. I just want to say reaction, because you can create these reactions out of people that will trigger them to respond the way you want them to. They're like, oh, I have to do this now, you know, and they think it's their own choice, right? But the other thing that was really interesting about it, like, because you can go through all the 4chan Keck, 10 years of Keck, you know, important stuff to like study. What I found to be
the
really
one thing I didn't know
it,
is that what I heard from him is that apparently on World of Warcraft, if the two factions in chat, they can't talk to each other. I remember that from 2005 or whatever, but I didn't know, or I didn't remember or whatever, that LOL actually translated as Keck.
Oh yeah, so in Korean. Yeah, Nashiketa is like, come on. Yeah, he knows. But basically, what got interesting to me about it was when you could like, okay, now we're gonna play a game. You have to hack into the site, and the game is Cryptology. Gee, who do we know who love Cryptology games? You know, what kind of people, Raph, really love, besides myself and you, right? Like,
well, if you know how to write Illuminati in reverse and then .com, and then you will arrive at the site, because they actually bought the domain Itani Muli, I think. Wait, I'm checking it out. So, oh yeah, it's right. itanimuli.com. Yeah, I was correct. itanimuli.com.
We'll take you to Bored Ape or what?
No, it's the Illuminati reverse, and I don't know why they put it behind a proxy or something, but it will.
Oh yeah. Right. Very cool. Yeah. So point being, that would probably be the most likely group of people that would be interested in Cryptology and think it's a fun game. And so the thing here that is like, okay, so they can trick people into spending a bunch of money that are idiots, for sure. They can get celebrities to trick people by giving them that and following them celebrities around. All right. They can ideologically impress people in dense society by inverting symbols that they have violent reactions to right in front of them, so that in the future they're a little bit more comfortable with those symbols, and then they're not so swayed one way or another way necessarily by those symbols, right? But then you can convince people that there's more, and then they play the game, and then the game is, a deep cryptology game that if you're really good at, well, not only do you win a prize, but they find out who you are, right? They find out who is really good at cryptology, who knows about the dancing man.
Great. And then they know either they can recruit you or they put you on a list. How great. It reminds me of this Cicada 1138 or whatever. I don't even know what actually happened there in the end, but there was also one of these rabbit holes, which may also have been a recruitment op. I don't even know. I haven't looked it up again, but
I just remember, like, also, the Captain Midnight cipher. And, as a kid, we had like cryptology books, like, for this purpose. And, like, anybody I know who loved those books, I'm just saying, like, it's really funny to me. It's just funny to me that this would be the kind of game that they chose. I just really, like, what is this? This is not a game. This is a scouting treasure hunt. That's all there is to it. Yeah. It's really wild that this happened in front of people. And the connection from macaques to Australopithecus, there's just a lot. I just recommend watching this video to understand, like, a lot of things. Understand 4chan, understand hate symbology, to understand Gestalt, because a big part of it is having the same Gestalt, the same shape and form, so that it's familiar and yet unfamiliar at the same time. And when people talk about it, they're like, this is so confusing, because how could Jewish and Cuban and Pakistani and people from all over the world, how could they be alt-right, or what does that even mean? And I think that's the point. Is this is a stupid word. We need to move beyond the idea of left and right, because this is heterodoxy. This is the idea of full-on heterodoxy, to take the power that a symbol has, a celebrity or anything else, and then to neutralize it. So it's kind of like you steal a car in Grand Theft Auto, you drive it around, and then you blow up the car when you leave, so no one else can drive it. Right?
Yes.
That's what you do with the swastika. That's what they're trying to do. That's really a crazy kind of goal. It's interesting. I don't know. I
think that's what they're doing here in the end with this, because that's the first thing. Just watching the first 30 minutes or 40, I was like, okay, all right, but I really don't see, like, some crazy Nazi group putting so much effort, into creating this. But of course, it makes more sense if it's more a cultural engineering government.
It's not Nazis. It's a cult group using Nazi or Soviet or Turkish or satanic or whatever symbology is associated with feel. Because if you vibe a feel, then that's got some gestalt. So you take that shape and then you repurpose it. And as long as people don't know what they're looking at, this is like Manly P. Hall, right? The symbol is not to be understood by the uninitiated. So it's confusing, because when someone sees a symbol that they do have some familiarity with, they're like, I know what that is. That's a hate symbol, right? So, like, the same thing with the swastika. Like, 3 people might see it and say it's 3 different things. Like, a Vedic Hindu might say, oh, I know what that is. That's love. Like, somebody else is like, I don't know. This is just a banana, right? And so that's the plan. That's the plan. Like, to get people to be like, oh, it's just nothing, and have several levels of proxy away from people understanding what it means. And then to have a magic synchromysticism, which is where you have multiple synchronistic depths, weighted meanings tied to something, right? It's a banana, but the banana republics, but bananas have neutrinos, but bananas swayed out look like the sun symbol. And the more you can build on that, then the more you have meaning that's and that dense meaning gives it power, right? Because it has meaning 6 ways to Sunday.
Yes, I can follow that logic. I'd love to know, what group or organization ultimately is, behind these cultural engineering operations.
Who could it be? Who could it be? Who could it be?
Who could it be? So we can I'm not sure. Yeah, we can just go through the NWO things, the 3 ones. You can open them up in order.
Okay.
And just briefly. So this is cool.
Wish to proceed. Thanks, Raf. Getting me in trouble here.
Yeah, no, they have this just because they're showing. This is a German video actually, but I guess
yeah, German offends you.
Why it's cool is because
that'd be hilarious if YouTube started to do that. Warning: the video that you're about to watch is in German.
Yeah,
caution to proceed.
Be careful. What's interesting here, I just somehow found this. This is maybe even not so recent, but what's cool is it shows a different official footage from news channels, and it shows war footage, and it just clearly shows you that for some reason sometimes they appear to be using the very same footage, and well, everything else, you know.
Not for long, man. With Unreal Engine, we'll be able to generate new war footage.
I was really surprised they didn't, give them a license a bit earlier to not to make it so bad, because some of those are really bad and obvious,
there's better alternatives probably to Unreal Engine still anyway. The reason that Unreal Engine is interesting is because it's in the hands of the people. But like, if you look at the stuff that the main also difference was before, if you had a small computer without a render farm, you couldn't do it instantaneously. But with a lot of people, they're thinking, oh, well, Spider-Man, it would have taken like a week to render every frame of that sequence, but only a week on one machine. So if you had 1,000 computers that are maybe like everyone's computer at night is on a like sleeper mode, and you could like array it to do processes, then yeah, you could in a week do thousands of animations. So I think that's something that people forget too when you look at propaganda, is how quickly do they have footage, and that it's real, man. A lot right now of what we see is fake. Like, I've been going through this myself. I'll be watching a video. I was watching a video of a plane crash. I was like, that looks really good. And then they're like, no, that's real. And then I look at another video and I'm like, oh man, this looks real. And they're like, no, that's a video game. So like, it's already happening to me. It's terrible.
Yeah. So next one is
Truth Matters.
Right. Oh yeah, right. This is an interesting guy. Maybe scroll down because I forgot his name. Does it even say his name?
Walter Veith?
Yes, right. Exactly. So I listened to a bit of that. I mean, they're using a different, everyone has a different timeline, but I found it, let's say, fundamentally interesting to watch. He's giving some interesting ideas. But we can go on, and then the next guy. This is just long form.
Oh, there was another thing, like the flag cipher. I wanted to say something like the flag. We should talk to Martin about this, because a major thing, and I was thinking about this, because of the other video in terms of cipher codex is like the flag symbolism.
Oh my god, this animation.
The dancing cipher, I also wanted to bring up just really quickly. The Dancing Man cipher is interesting to me, the Sherlock Holmes cipher, because of hold on. Michael Jackson does a bunch of dancing cipher codes in his short films. And there's an interesting one where he's got like hieroglyphs behind him, which are all Dancing Man ciphers. So that's a fun project if anyone wants to like dig into Michael Jackson's secret messages. Cool. All right. But yeah, you were saying this guy's history.
Yeah, just interesting to watch. I don't remember exactly which timeline he's using and so on, but there were a few interesting tidbits, and seemed honest and straightforward enough. The next one is interesting. You can go on the tab. This is a guy that originally got fame, I guess, through the Bible Club.
Oh yeah.
For some strange reason,
Bill Schnoblin.
If I just look him up like that, I can't even find this Bible Club video, even though I saw excerpts of it. Well, not easily. Maybe it's on.
You gotta type his name. His name is so specific. Bill Schnoblin. If you just put that in right there. Wow. Yeah, it's like, okay, here you go. You go down like 3 or 4. There it is. Okay, Prophecy Club.
All right. Yeah.
Prophecy Club videos. There should be like these videos, man. I don't care.
Like kind of OG. I mean,
I watch these videos. I don't know.
Obviously, they're Christian, but I'm like, this is where they let the cat at the back to whatever degree.
Oh man, this video is great. Yeah, and he talks about the Mormon Church and all this stuff. Yeah, I gotta send that video to Jacob Isbell. yeah, that Bill Schnobel's pretty interesting, but he's become like a rabbi Christian, right? Like he wears his little kibbah all the time, and I wonder about that because he's like so scared that the devil's going to get him, that he feels like he has to follow the light. We should interview him at some point.
Yeah, so what's interesting about that one video that I showed was just that he's talking about the Shriners, and anyone who's seen this, they've seen some of the pictures already and some of the logos. He claims that he himself was kind of part of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's true, then just, one more reason.
Well, he was part of, so he was like a ufologist in Ohio or something, or like Minnesota, Wisconsin, or I forget where he's from. Bill Schnobel is from Wisconsin. I think it's from Wisconsin. Wow. In Spanish Wikipedia, but not in English Wikipedia. Okay. So that's interesting. But yeah, so I think he's from Wisconsin. He was like a ufologist, and then he got really into the idea, like after the Communion movie, more and more into like the occult, and got into Satanism. So he became a Satanist, and he was like sending checks to the Church of Satan, and that's why he says he became a Christian. Was, he sent in a check to the IRS or the bank or something like that, and then he got a message back from the bank teller that's like, "I'll be praying for you in the name of Jesus Christ," like written on it. And then he like felt like he couldn't drink blood anymore, and he couldn't because at that time he's like, drinking blood is like, it's the 70s, so you've got these girls that are coming over your house, and then they're doing these like veins and things. It's like all gross. It is what it is, but it's probable. Like that's the kind of thing that people were doing on drugs in the 70s. Like 70s were wild. Like there's completely reasonable.
Only in the 70s, I'm sure.
No, but it's like I can see that happening without question. That there would have been opportunity for him to do that. And then he says he becomes he has a lot of problems, loses some power, doesn't want to join the Christians. So they said that they put him into the Mormons so that it's like a cover story. Like there's a group of people living in Utah that are pretending to be Mormon, and they have like a satanic pedo cult in Ogden or something like that. But it's interesting because there's plenty of evidence of, Utah is a great place to get away with that then. If you could pretend enough, and you could have enough people to run your own ward in your own community, maybe you could do that, because it'd be really hard to do otherwise. Like you couldn't just like go into another community. You'd have to find a small enough place. Utah has small enough places where there is like almost no one left, or there has never been anyone living in this particular town. And if you can get enough people to come in there and there's enough money and infrastructure, sure. Yeah, I could totally see how that could happen. But what's interesting there is also the idea that it's spread, and it's like, it has a lot of power. And if you look at churches with lots of money, like the Mormon church is a church with lots of money now, but it wasn't always. So can it be said that it's possible that the same group that Bill is talking about somehow affected intellectual reserve? Sure. Like there's no way that I could be confident that it's not that way. Like we have to be able to look into that.
What I think is amazing, and I really think you're getting more in the US, is you have this Freemasonry tag below. That's also one I've never seen before. That's just awesome that they now want to try educate us on it.
That's good. That is good.
Yeah.
That song, Brotherhood of Man, from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying? That ancient brotherhood of man, that secret brotherhood of man. Yeah, it's basically the best.
Stop singing or they're gonna flag you.
Yeah, no, I can do it. I have that vibrato. They love me.
That's why I'm saying it matches too well, probably, even though I don't know the original.
True. That was pretty close. I'll admit that might have been one of my better impressions. I'm sorry.
No, really well done. So yeah, the next, I have two things. Basically, you can choose which one you like best. So we have current things. This is more like from different places around the world, fun stuff.
Well, magic, real quick. Outrageous. I have loved the word outrageous because.
Right, so you brought this up to me. I actually read through all of it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe we want to talk about it or something. Or...
I brought this up. Don't blame me. No, what is this?
What is this? Yeah, now you're pretending. No, you sent this to me and we're like, oh, is this crazy? I mean, it's just.
Yeah, this is out of control.
once an interesting article. I don't know how even what to say about this. It's just like it's very strange.
Very weird for Germany. But it's like, I mean, for Germany of all places, but things are weird now. Like, it's crazy that you can talk about Israel. It confuses me. I'll be like watching something, I'll see a friend post something, and they'll be like, you know, like the Mexican president and the Argentinian president are disproportionately representing you know, their people, where they're Jewish and their people are not Jewish. I'm like, dude, that's like anti-Semitic. Or maybe I know you and you're not anti-Semitic, but like your boss might see that and you might lose your job. And then I remember, like, no, we've always been at war with Oceania now. It's a weird season because everywhere you go, people are posting anti-Israel. It's not anti-Semitic to be against genocide with pictures of the Israeli flag. These are on the Hollywood freeway. And I don't know, like, it's not the Palestinians who run Hollywood. So it's really interesting to see anti-Israel stuff in America everywhere, because it's just, it's
like where, on a car or on a house?
Anywhere. Everywhere. Okay. I mean, on bumper stickers. I mean, on billboards. I mean, on like where you used to see like buy Coppertone sunscreen, the big like billboards you drive by, 50 feet long sign that says, you know, being against genocide is not anti-Semitic, with a big Palestinian flag. And all kinds of things about Israeli soldiers and everything like that. It's crazy. I'm not like against it. I'm not for it either. I'm just saying it's really weird if you grew up in a country where you could never, ever talk. I mean, Germany's even more like that. So that it's crazy all of a sudden that I think this is what people have been warning about, is the pendulum swing. Because if you spend so much time protecting a class, right, then eventually what happens is you have this like gnarly reaction, and voila, we have people now that are legitimately anti-Semitic. And I mean, that's not the goal for me, at least.
And this, and this is similar, because I never thought about it, unfortunately, so far, because also you could say maybe the Mormon church gets a bad rap, whatever, but just like you pointed out, how suitable would they be to have an undercover op and then, pretend I'm Mormon, you know? And this is the typical thing with the relabeling. And the same issue would be today with Israel, or let's say certain individuals in the Israeli army, their studies on this and so on, what happens there. Please, everyone research it yourself. But even here, who are those individuals? And then you realize, for example, if this is correct, you can be convicted of certain things in the US, and then still you can go join, you can basically, you know, leave for to join the IDF, stuff like that. And then but
of course, in Minnesota, you'll find plenty of teenagers end up in Palestine, because you've got jihad tourism and they recruit people. So the idea that the United States is paying for one side or the other side is laughable, because it's both sides. It's always been both sides. It's kind of like, you know, school fight, like Jeff, did you hear what Steve said? Steve, did you hear what Jeff said? Fight him after school. And they're like, they don't want to fight all week, but you have to make them fight. That's like, get them a gun. Like, that's literally America.
Yeah, anyhow, so just pointing out that here you have a certain filtering and funneling, and then in reverse, some individuals that, you know, don't think logically would then say, Israel is bad. That's why I think the whole group is bad, because they are doing it in the IDF, this and that. But then which people actually get filtered into the IDF, for example?
I just mean, like, imagine, okay, so Melissa's watching right now, right? Melissa, what if, like, we talked about, like, Canada for a second, and I was like, you know, Trudeau, he's, like, not a great president. All Canada is evil now because I don't like Trudeau. That's reasonably kind of what is happening. I don't know how else to put it. Canada is more nuanced than Trudeau. Israel is more nuanced, and the Jewish people are more nuanced than Israel itself, right? Like, so it's, and I'm not just saying that like as an apologist. I really am not. Like, I really am not.
This is always true, but this is always the trick they like to play with, the relabeling and assuming, creating and assuming factions, filtering.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Like, don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. You know.
Well, we can move to something less contentious if you like. We have Japan, and then we have the Congo, and then we have the UK coming up.
Yeah, but just to reiterate to people, you ought to see this video, because
just read this article. Also read through it and try to make sense of it. It was a really interesting read. It's a long article, but very interesting read.
Japan is messed up right now because it's super poor. People aren't getting paid enough. There's no chance of a raise. The average age of everyone's like 50 to like 70. I was just watching lonely 50-year-old Japanese man. I'm getting the weirdest recommendations recently on my YouTube channel. I've got a girl who's dying in a hospital as a recommendation every day, which is hard to watch, but I can't stop. God. And then this 50-year-old Japanese man who is super lonely. And like I've been watching him for like a week, and then I realized, hey, screw you, man. You're married and have kids. What do you mean you're lonely? It's just a Friday night to go to bed at 9 p.m. and so you're lonely. I don't know. Cheater. But no, he's cool.
All alone on Friday night. Oh, poor guy.
I know. Yeah, I was like, all right, well, that's cool. I could watch that. Like, that's a great title. But like, you know, he's showing cool Japanese stuff that I have and love, and like he takes care of and plays the games and everything like that. So it's kind of interesting that he exists. But yeah, his whole thing is like he's like, I don't know what to do with my life, so I better start making videos. Where was the one? He's like, I'm like, I have no.
I love how most of the title starts with, I am 50 years old Japanese man.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Awesome. Yeah, he's like talking though about like, you know, how he doesn't know what to do. I'm really worried about my future. That was the one I first saw. He's like, he's just a stressed out dude, and he's like, I'm 50 years old. I have an 8-year-old son, a 4-year-old daughter. I have 28 more years on my mortgage.
Oh my God.
I have 13 years of marketing and 10 years of sales skills. My mother is 81 in a nursing home. My mother-in-law is 68, and like my father-in-law is 72. And yeah, he's like, I don't know what to do. I already have income that's above average, technically, like slightly above average, and it's still like not gonna do anything. And there's no chance of getting a raise or anything like that. And he's 50, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, that sucks. I mean, what do you want me to say, bro? Like you shouldn't have gotten a marketing degree and lived in Japan the rest of your life. I don't know. Point is, Japan does look like this now. People living in the streets, homeless populations increasing. Less and less of the like this. It used to be if you were homeless, you had to hide it in Japan, and it's getting to the point where you like after 2017 or something like that, it's been basically not so. I mean, there was a lot of cleanup during COVID, I heard, but it's not. Yeah, it's pretty much just everywhere now. You got people that are homeless, people living in cars, people that, like for a long time they had infrastructure to hide the homeless. Like you would get in a salon car, or you'd get in like these buildings, and you'd stay like they'd have these little places where that you're supposed to pretend you're looking for a job. And so it has like soda and like some snacks, and it has like a little like couch, and it has a laptop or a computer for you to be in, and you're supposed to be there looking for a job, but you can sleep there. And so people would it's like a hotel room, pretend like, you know, they had this little like apartment that has no bed. It's just
because I mean, everyone can have their view on capitalism, benefits, this and that. But when it gets to a point, or capitalism, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd call the Empire of Japan a capitalist state, but it is.
Of course, yeah. But when it gets to the degree, or not, let's call it the idea of duty or being important to society or work being important, when it gets to the extent that people pretending to work or pretending even to look for work, I mean, why couldn't, and I know why, you know, because I'd be like, just
I don't think it's people... the capitalism. So with Japanese culture,
that's the wrong term.
Japanese culture, it's the beehive thing. Same as Utah, right? Like, so there are no bees without jobs. There are no homeless bees, you know, there are no drunk bees. There are no lazy bees. Like bees are drones. They're essentially slaves, but their slavery is that they live in the flowers and they get to like experience pollen and everything. And like technically they're under a queen, but the queen is like a rape victim that's just being like kept as a slave, essentially. So this weird inversion, which is very much like the British Empire, you know, or like the way a lot of people would look at Japan. And so if you don't have a job, you don't have a purpose, right? It's like, I mean, seriously, like
sorry, I tripped over when you said the queen is basically a rape victim.
Yeah, the ability for the drone to feel like they have the right to control over their sex slave, the queen, comes directly from their having a position of occupancy. So going around and finding flowers and things like that. And in Japan, it's very similar. Like you have an empire, there's an emperor, There are important families which are sustaining the cultural normative. They're destroying a building and rebuilding a building so that it's continually happening all around you. And if you don't fit into that and you're meaningless, it's not just that you want to be homeless. Like Japan is the highest suicide rate, but we don't look at suicide the same way they do, like it's an honor thing. So again, I don't connect it really with capitalism. And capitalism isn't Japan's fault, or I wish it was, because a lot of what Japan does is, like, you look at this guy's life, he doesn't get a raise because what they do instead is they just stop prices from rising. They're like, all right, like you buy eggs in Japan, I think this year they might start. I think they're starting to go up for the first time in 40 years.
Interest for a long time now, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just interest; it's inflation. Like they're able to deflate. They deflate so it doesn't matter how much eggs cost in real life, because in Japan they're going to be sold at that price. If you're a farmer and you sell eggs, the government will subsidize it to make sure that they're at that price up to a certain point now, apparently. But this was really important because it meant the entire economy could be sustained without growth of inflation. You have the same quality of life for work, right? So this is feudalism, right? Like that's not capitalism.
yeah. I definitely used the wrong term here. I was more referring to the idea that anyhow, when you then create excess things where there will be no success, just to keep up a pretense and a veneer, latest, but then it kind of becomes ridiculous. But how much of the economy is just pretend anyway. So yeah.
Right. The other thing that's weird about Japan is, like, go to a Japanese website, like, hold on, like japan.jp or something like that. Let's see what happens. If I go to any Japanese, like Japanese websites, for the most part, Japanese websites look like they were made in the late 90s. They're just really crap. And here's an example, right? Like, look at this one right here. Hold on, let's see here. Look at this. It's barely a website. This is probably one of the nicer websites I've seen because it uses modern HTML standards that you could use. For the most part, they just have these weird, like, out of date, basically, like, they use fax machines. They play CD players. None of their things break down. So they still have all of their old stuff. And so they're living in, like, the 70s. They have iMacs from the late 90s that still run. And when they read a website, like, it doesn't make sense to be reading it the way we do. It's better to have just these blocks and pictures and words. So it just looks like trash. It's incredible. So, like, when I've been trying to do, like, tech recently, like making video games, I've been talking to a lot of different people. Japanese people, on the whole, are not as good at a lot of modern technology. There are definitely people I'm talking to that know how to use Unreal and things like that. But there's a culture there that is using 20-year-old technology, and it's teaching that, and people are living in sort of a bubble now, which is really interesting.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. But at least they're able to have stuff that doesn't break so easily.
That's true. But, like, if the trade-off is your websites look like this, then is it worth it?
I mean, yeah.
Gay science.
That's the last one.
Oh,
this is
ahead. We can go. We'll go back to gay science. Okay, so Congolese tribes. Let's go to Congolese tribes.
So also here, here you can just, I guess, let it roll just for 30 seconds or a minute, and then the second one also, just because it's a nice point. So this is just interesting. Finally, maybe Vice is making some interesting documentaries again. The title says it all. Congolese tribes selling weed. It's like semi-legal or something there. And also, of course, some of the indigenous, get suppressed. It's not really fun. The cool part here is, why I wanted to show this part, is they're making tea with leaves. And then the narrator is like, oh, who would think that this could do anything? But recent studies actually suggest, and then they just tell you that, like, I don't know, 70% of individuals that are smoking, they actually talk about smoking, have a lot less parasite infestation,
Yeah.
And so that's, was an interesting point. And the second point I also like on the second tab, I have it marked. Yes, you have this woman. Yes, so here she's talking about when they get caught by the police, but also she basically says, because of the poverty and so on, many had turned to prostitution, but she actually helped different individuals to instead, sell this semi-legal weed. And it's also then kind of sympathetic how she's like, yeah, think about it, I'm their doctor, and what do people do? The men, when they smoke, then they want some food and then they go to bed, but kind of like it's, just in terms of, I don't know, what addictions can you base your society on, or what substances, and it certainly yields a different result. So because then you have other documentaries about whatever crazy zombie drugs they have, and these guys, I guess, caught a better route. So yeah.
Wow. Congo weed. It's probably good.
This is interesting because the only way I know Milton Keynes is because I once did remote studies with the Open University, which is a UK-based university based in Milton Keynes, but I was never there and I didn't even go to any ceremony. Now I know why. And basically just talking about how Milton Keynes is a completely artificial city. Apparently also, if I'm correct, one of the examples for like smart city thing. And yeah, just interesting if anyone is interested in, modern design cities. This guy is showing you around, quite interesting, and had never heard about it before. So, but I just knew it because of the university, but never knew like what's going on with this place or why it's relevant. But it's basically like a modern design city.
Wow.
I guess in the 70s or something. And they explain it quite well and they walk you around.
It does look like the 70s. 70s are cool.
Yeah, and of course they show the obelisk and stuff like that. So they also talk about, potential occult connections there. So that's also covered. Yeah, this I only brought up because I thought the name is fun.
The joyous science. Yeah.
But there's nothing I can say about it. So
Nietzsche is published in 1882, followed by a second edition in 87, after the completion of Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Beyond Good and Evil. The substantial expansion includes the addition of a fifth book to the existing 4 books of gay science, as well as the appendix of song.
Thus
the most personal book of all my books.
Thus Spoke Zarathustra I actually read in German. At least in German, it's a really interesting read, and the message I got from it was kind of an aspirational, positive message. I'll now have to...
It's okay to be science.
Yes. Happy science.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Thus Spoke Zarathustra is definitely interesting to read. And here this whole God is dead thing, I don't know about that.
After Buddha was dead, people showed a shadow for centuries afterward in a cave, an immense frightful shadow. God is dead, but as the human race is constituted, there will perhaps be caves for millenniums yet in which people will show his shadow, and we will have still to overcome his shadow. Oh, Nietzsche. Magic, D&D jobs. We looked at that one.
Okay,
let's go to
yes.
These up real quick.
Yes, very good. So this is very interesting. I guess scroll towards the end because then you can see the relevant pictures.
Oh, puppets are good.
Yeah, I don't really get this puppet. This is the first video I saw there. It was recommended to me. So it talks about the 72, I guess, demons in this Goetia book. And then at the very end, they actually show you the correlations. Yeah, right here. Almost. Yeah, right. You were there.
Yeah.
So they show you how the different, you must know this, I guess. Yeah. But I guess I maybe had randomly heard about it, but I'd never seen it, so clearly laid out that you can literally see on the seal how the emoticon was made after the seal.
That's
and I'm like,
practical.
Please, guys, like, can't you ever like give it a rest or something? But no.
Hey man, again with Gestalt. Gestalt is really important. Shape and form are really important.
So you're saying they are dispelling the demons with this? I'll take that. All right.
I mean, it's like Shrekianism again, where like kids don't have any sort of understanding of what those symbols mean other than what they see them to mean. So they're inferring they're putting their own meaning into it rather than using somebody else's meaning. So I feel like it's probably the healthiest way, but I know a lot of people are afraid of demons.
But I'm like, isn't there any other system you could use or something? It have to be.
Why is it?
I'll take the idea. No, I'll take the idea that it's a white spell, let's say, in terms of having just open-minded curiosity.
I mean, I find it really interesting to me that people are so upset about the demons of Solomon, right? Because Solomon is supposed to be like God's chosen, most wise. Like when you see a star,
also never
shooting star, when you see a shooting star, don't you wish for wisdom to rule the people every time? Is that not like what everyone does because of Solomon? Like, I feel like that's his influence. So it's not the same as like Anton LaVey in his demons. You know, I think that people are looking at it like a very presentist thing. And like King James, who writes the King James Bible, also he has a huge expose on demonology, talking about the Goetia demons. And the Arabs, you know, Muslims don't look at demons as being like under the legion of Satan. Like they're just free spirits, right? So you can entrap them in a square. I think that's also kind of the point. I don't know. It's interesting to me because a lot of people are so opposed to the spirit in this world, and it's not logical to me. From if you're a Christian, which a lot of people are, it seems like, then why are they so like? It's just so humanist. There's such a humanist effort to remove the mystical, to demystify, and I don't see it as necessarily being like frightful.
Of course, I first want to know who actually came up with those and for what actual purpose. But what you're definitely right about, there is this mix-up with Solomon in terms of what does that entity actually represent. But
yeah, I mean, it's like there's a lot of ways to look at Solomon. It could be that these are like the Chaldeans arrange these symbols. Like there's evidence that like the Timbuktu school, you have people that learned how to create a language in one school in Timbuktu so that they could communicate with each other and write things down in the perfect language, and another school that was for evangelism, for people like to go out into the world to places where they're not in their university, where people don't know how to communicate and don't know how to write, and to create symbols for the uninitiated, like an entire thing for people that don't like to create a language and an art and a gestalt for people that don't know how to read it or don't already have training in it, right? And those are two different directions, which at some point converge again, right? And that usually converges in like an esoteric sense. But I don't know. The other thing with like Solomon's Goetia is the demons are not necessarily supposed to be when we think of like Enochian magic, these symbols are representing maybe like this angelic language, right? So when you look at these shapes, you're looking at pretty particular, like this, I see like zodiac things here. You see this like the sun quaternity things, like the sun and the stars, right? There's probably a lot of things here which are just really practical to tell you where a luminary is coming from. Maybe like Jupiter. Which one is this? Which is this H symbol? I forgot.
This is Saturn, I believe.
That's Saturn, right? Not Jupiter. It's the 4 thing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like created out of just without logic. They all have pretty specific points that they're pointing to.
Oh yeah,
all right. I'm not even plugging the Goetia.
I'm not even hating on it, you know. So just interesting that it just wanted to show that it's pattern, you know, not even saying it's one way or another. But as always, I'd love to know the intention of whoever came up with the standard and what they actually thought when they put it there. But anyhow, so here, I don't know how I came across this. Tajikistan takes steps to punish sorcerers and fortune tellers. I just thought it interesting. I mean, never hear anything from Tajikistan, and this picture probably is also even a picture from there. So who knows if that's even true what they're writing? But just thought it was curious.
Wasn't Tajikistan a like kind of a Soviet Arabic state?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how are you going to describe this properly now? You got it.
I'm a big fan of the Green Book. Yeah.
Gaddafi's Green Book, you mean?
What?
Gaddafi's Green Book, or which Green Book?
Oh no. What was the name of the Tajikistan dictator? Is this
yeah, right? He made a book, but you know, Gaddafi made a book.
Yeah,
maybe because this guy didn't seem so serious to me. Maybe he just made a cover up a book, or was he honest? I don't know. Because this is the guy that put a huge like a steel version of the book in his capital or something crazy. Like
this guy's interesting.
If
he's underrated in a lot of ways. Like, the amount of infrastructure that he's put into Tajikistan, and like the fact that they have like a city larger than Italy that's filled with like marble and granite like towers and everything like that. The infrastructure cities. Let's see, like developments. Like he basically banned drugs, sold all the drugs in the state in a time when a lot of people were in cocaine money and CIA cocaine, and he used all that money to build this city that after he died, this state that after he died, like no one will forget how beautiful Tajikistan is. Like in a few decades or whatever happens, it's not like gonna fall apart. It's really well designed. It's made out of like the highest quality materials. I don't know. There's something really interesting about what he created, and I think that it will end up being a world power or something after the reset. It'll definitely be a place, and he's guaranteed. You know, that's like the job of an emperor, to guarantee your people's future. And so it's funny because people will always like mock him, but they did the same with Gaddafi, right? Like they made Gaddafi sound like he was a silly, incompetent.
Exactly. No, because I only saw one, let's say, one personality called documentary about him where it was like, oh, sounds curious, but I don't know the background. With Gaddafi, they claim other things, and Gaddafi wrote a green book. You know about this, right?
Yeah.
So
green is also like the most important color of Islam a lot of the time, right? Like it's associated with
associated with nature and with the heart.
Yeah. And
oh yeah, and here just point out, because I had heard this before, I think a long time ago, from Rodrigo Ferrari Nunes, who we once had on to talk about Earth shape, I think.
Oh yeah.
So, and he also made research into or he mentioned at some point that, oh, some of these things are forged or whatever. So anyone who wants the lead, this is a good and short video where it is explained where they got the writings from. And,
forged is a strong word, I feel like.
Well, plagiarized or whatever. And the guy before probably was forged, but we'll find that out too. But anyhow, so just wanted to bring that up.
Wrongful appropriation of another's ideas. Can that be done? Is that possible? Right? Because like first off, it's assuming an idea belongs to somebody else instead of like an idea having its own rights. Latin plagiarist, kidnapper, seducer, plunderer, one who kidnaps a child or a slave of another, right? Plagiarist. I don't know if I really would call it the same. I think that's an intellectual property misstep.
Well, generally, and I'm not the biggest fan of copyright anyhow, but anyways.
Good to know the sources. There's no bibliography. Yes, it's good to have.
Good to know the sources, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, the other thing is interesting. This is interesting because it explains a little bit this idea of like a central god and the sun, and then other gods outside. And that I haven't really figured it out yet, but this summer relates. Oh, and there I got the what's his name?
Bill Schnoebelen. Bill Schnoebelen.
Because he kind of explains this, that within some sub variants of the religion of the followers of Osiris, or however you would call it, that they believe you can kind of manifest or incarnate God, and then you can maybe kind of trap God, or God has only a limited range of power, and then there's
that's what the Goetia is about.
Okay.
So the idea is that, and this is actually related to Gnosticism and the Mormon thing too, but like let's just do it from the Gnostic perspective, that in the beginning itself, the Ein Sof, like the infinite nothing, the no thing created the Elohim, right? So it's not that in the beginning God, whose name is Elohim, created the heavens, the earth. It's that the heavens are the celestial, and then out of the celestial space-time foam comes a family of gods, right? Like an entire, like Elohim, Anunnaki, whatever you want to call it, right? That's a group of intelligences. And then those intelligences include the sons of God, Adonai Elohim. Adonai Elohim means the sons or the children, the offspring. And so angels, when we say in the Bible, they translate angel really refers to the sons of God. But that could, angel and demon, right? Like we often will kind of admit to ourselves that a demon is just like a fallen angel. So whatever that really means is basically that angels and demons are the same thing. They are both Adonai Elohim. And then if those things can be trapped, the Solomon square, the magic square, or the seal of Solomon is that point. You have a 6-pointed star with a 7-pointed star around it, which is where John Dee gets into this. And yeah, you can trap demons for the purpose of building temples, which is what Solomon did, right? Like he was able to trap them in the squares and force them to do things before letting them free, right? Or if he ever does. The genie in the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so trapped at God, but that's what they mean essentially, because there's like lower deities. Where reset? Oh, do you know about Kia Boys? You know what the Kia Boys are?
No.
Let me show you something real quick. I know we're got more important things to talk about than this, but in America, in Connecticut, no, all over the place, you know, the Kia cars were as simple as you pull out the key ignition and put there's a USB plug that the key ignition was in, and you just stick a USB plug into it and it starts your car. So what people were doing up until I think a couple months ago, where Kia has given free updates, you can bring in your car and they'll like update it. Like people were just like kids were going around because they can't really get arrested very easily when they're young, just stealing cars and just racing them around like all over the place. And it's just, yeah, it's crazy. All these kids are just like, they just pop in cars and there they go. They just like get in a car, steal it, drive around like Grand Theft Auto, run out of gas, get in another Kia, drive it around because everyone has.
Oh my God.
They have a guy out the window, and then like they might see a cop, and then they just like go down like an overpass, and then they hide for a minute under the overpass until the cop turns off its lights.
Literally, it's like
Grand Theft
oh my
Auto.
God.
Straight up real life Grand Theft Auto. And the cops aren't arresting these kids, and they say like they know who they are, but they're not doing anything about it. Like, I don't know if it's because there's supposed to be like a federal investigation or if they're whatever it is, but basically nobody could do anything about it until Kia started updating cars. And now if you have a Kia, you just have to update it. But I don't know. Connecticut Kia Boys, pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, so here, just to bring up that even it arrived to this very, whatever, channel with many subscribers, what I brought up a few times, you know, how many patents are being subsumed by DARPA and so on.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, here he just, you know, gives you the thing, which I find is interesting because I think, you know, anyone pointing out that information is being hidden from you is a good thing. So yeah, we don't have to watch much of it. Just wanted to point out that this is hitting maybe someone.
Brought to you by Razor Blades. That's sweet.
Oh, yeah, even here, even showing some Tesla stuff.
Nice.
Or the idea of maybe wireless energy transmission. So here, I just wanted to bring up his channel again, just because, you know, he keeps publishing all these interviews. This is the most recent one with Gleb Nosovsky. Highly recommended watching, to have the original researchers of the new chronology from Russia and have really decent translations. And especially these interviews are kind of fun because they're only like 40 minutes. They're made for radio. So it's kind of a manageable, you know, bit of information. But even here, they sometimes show graphs when it's relevant and so on. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think those are great.
Nice.
Ooh. And this, just to point out, this is one of the battles that Nosovsky talks about a lot, which apparently was a great decisive battle. I can't even properly explain it, but I just wanted to have it bookmarked because that's one of the things he's speaking of. To anyone who's watching the interview, that's something you may want to cross-reference.
Near the Don River, although the victory did not end Mongol domination over Russia, is traditionally regarded as a turning point at which the Mongol influence began to wane. Russia's pretty much cool because of the Mongols keeping them safe from the West. Hot take. Hot take.
Yeah, so-called Mongols.
Right.
Yes, with the crescent moon. Oh, then here, just because last time we went through a few, quote, debunking videos, this is another one of those where I feel offended, but I only feel offended because the research is so superficial, and I would want to have real...
I just feel so bad for bald people now. You know what I mean? It's like, gotta be really hard. And I love all my bald friends. Like, I feel like, you know, it's okay to be bald. I'm proud of this guy because he's willing to just like show his head. He doesn't have to wear a hat. If you're bald, you know I love you. Like you don't have to hide yourself, right? And you don't have to like act like clever because you're bald. Like you can just be yourself, you know. It's okay. It's really like, I mean, a lot of women like bald people. Like bald, like sometimes bald means you have more testosterone. Not this time, but sometimes it does, and it can be like a thing that's like alpha masculine. You know, like people can be into that. So I don't know. Poor guy. He doesn't have to have like such a grudge about it.
Anyhow, it's just the thing is just he's mainly reading through the Wikipedia article, which some of you may know, may sometimes be somewhat.
Yeah, see, like I'll do that. I'll read through the Wikipedia, but when I do it, it's because I'm looking through the lines. I'm not like trying to take that as the literal. Come on, bro! Like this is hilarious. Like, well, it says right here on Wikipedia.
But of course, the cool thing is on his channel, he's kind of teaching Greek and Latin and so on. So in some ways, I can understand why he would be hesitant to look deeper into this, to then be like, oh, we can continue our classes, but just to let you know, they've basically been recently invented.
Oh, really? Is this guy a teacher, you're saying?
Apparently, just go on his channel,
That
and I
sucks.
think he's offering for
that's
like
the thing.
Greek and Latin courses.
When
or
you're
something,
like a
ancient
bald
Greek.
teacher, it's probably really hard because he's not even that old, you know. And so he's got all these like young girls. He's probably teaching like college and stuff. Ah, poor guy. And then I just feel bad. All right, this guy's cool. Look at this guy. I'm into this guy so far.
This is a bit older, and also just another one of fun.
Yeah, that guy looks like
debunking videos. So,
all right. I like the first one. I like the first actor they had in their video.
But
this guy looks cool.
It's also kind of relevant even for people interested in it, just so that they know if they speak to someone who then says, "Oh yeah, I saw about this online. I know it's bad." Then at least you know what videos they saw, and what information they maybe got through or didn't get.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Like, I mean, again, like looking at like the flamenco interviews that Anatoly interview channel, like the playlist videos he has on his channel. It's interesting to see, again, like we've talked about this, that in Russia, they're showing people and building the infrastructure for people to research and to find out all this stuff. And in America, like students are being told not to look into it, that they'll be mocked if they look into it. Yeah. That it's crazy, like you're basically sorting hat yourself, like you're either in the normal school or you're in the evil school. If you've decided to go with that. And if you're in the evil school, you're not just evil, you're crazy. Look at all these actors we've paid to look crazy talking about these things.
When, just to bring it back to basics, don't they always say science is an ongoing process? And in my naivete, whenever I came across these strange labelings, I always thought, well, shouldn't it be obvious if everyone, shares all the information and we get together, we will find out the truth together. But then you realize often there's at least one side that's not too interested in it. Yeah, this
is the sad one. I really have a hard time with
this. You saw
one.
it?
No, I've seen him before, and I've seen, like, I remember I tuned in by accident to him doing a live stream to his school, like, and there's a bunch of kids there, and it's just like the vibe. I just, that feeling in your heart that, like, oh man, like when a fact is anything you can convince other people, right? Did I convince you that's a fact? It's just crazy. Totally, it's so crazy. There's a guy who doesn't understand this completely. And so he makes an entire presentation on the part of it he misunderstood. And that's a pretty short presentation, because the next part of the presentation has to be on why he thinks people are like this. So when you start psychoanalyzing people without a lot of data, you get this like very clear picture. And he's like, this is important to me because this is why people don't trust the education system and why they're not getting vaccinated. I'm like, yeah, it should be important to you. You should probably be thinking about that. Maybe a little harder, but it's interesting that you're trying to convince people rather than think about it first. You shouldn't try to convince people until after you think about it, if at all, if you ever get to that point. I don't know. It just bums me out because, he's young, he's handsome enough for like the kids are gonna like listen to him, and it's sad because a lot of these kids are like they're so riding on it because the kids that they're listening to him they're in school, so their grade rides on believing this stuff, and then beyond that, their careers ride on this nonsense being true. So it's just
Yes.
so sad. It's like watching a Soviet Union socialist agriculture lecture in 1989, knowing these students will never get to use that data. You know?
Yeah, yeah, it kind of, you describe it pretty well, and
Sorry.
it's it's just amazing to me that, of course, those individuals doing these debunking things, either they're just short info videos or like comedic and so on, and it's all fine, you know, and I'm happy if they have millions of clicks. But I'm like, if there was an honest inquiry, obviously they would look and at least interview 1, 2, 3 individuals and be like,
Or
oh, I
just
think this
go
is
to
so
the places, man. Like, so
well,
when we talk about the Bosnian
anything, you
pyramid,
know?
it's like the Bosnian pyramid's a really funny one because that one got me for years. Like, I didn't go there, so I just assumed it was possibly not true. I figured there was like, you know, something going on at all because that's who I am. I assume things are going on. But when I got there and I see that it is there objectively, the question is no longer, is there a pyramid in Bosnia? It's like, what is the thing? What is that pyramid? What do you mean by pyramid? Is it, etc.? And until they can get to that point, like once I did that, then I'm like, okay, now I can see these things are in these angles and they're all connected. There's more data. But if you're just in the position of denying the existence of something, denying the elephant in the literal, like the proverbial elephant in the room, what the heck? It's crazy because like nothing can move forward on that level. If you, it's brilliant. You just did not. It's the flat earther argument. Like the people that are upset that they're like flat earthers won't recognize NASA science because they don't believe it is the exact same argument. Like, oh, well, we don't. There's no pyramid. You know, like okay.
Well, all right. If some guys say there is no pyramid, then there is no space, you know, or there is no.
Yeah, there is the no thing. There is the Ein Sof. I mean, at least we're getting to some common ground, which is there is no ground.
Yeah, seems like it.
We was taught this false chronology.
Yes, so this is actually a video explaining the false chronology. I didn't really properly check out this guy's channel yet, though it was recommended to me quite a few times already. But I will. But here I just wanted to give, you know, one link that I don't only have the debunking links, but also one that actually explains a little bit about flamenco and new chronology. So that's a cool one. He's reading a bit through it. He's explaining some things. Apparently here is even showing from the documentaries. So that can be maybe a good starting point for someone who's like, oh, you know, I got to get a whole timeline in my head where to even start. Maybe that can be a start. No, nice.
A lot of people are like, that's interesting. Like, because I know a lot of people love history and are interested in this.
Oh, look, he said he compares him to Giada Bruno or Galileo.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, please go on.
A lot of people don't get the value of history still, though, because they're thinking like, oh, we don't live in this time anymore. And like, how ridiculous is it to like spend time wondering about how people were 100 years ago versus 1,000 years ago? Like, it's ridiculous to even ponder it because how does it affect us right now? And I know we kind of covered that 6 ways to Sunday, but
I mean, there's a big group that says no borders, no nations. Even for them, it would be very interesting to check.
Really interesting. And the fact that, again, like, who are the people most interested in this history? They're the World Economic Forum members or founders. They're the elite in Russia or in the United States, right? There are Ukrainian Jews. There are like all sorts of groups that are connected to the Tartars, right? And so the fact that this is something that all over the world, people are writing on this, deciding the fate of their future, it makes it more interesting to wonder about flamenco. It's still a question, and it's not an answered subject that we just move on from.
Yes, and it is obviously being, let's say, disregarded or swept under the rug. Otherwise, you know, it'd be any of your presentations or talks with millions of views, but you know, only the low ball debunking refutations.
It's my own fault for not making a bored monkey Tartaria NFT. I know.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I mean, think about it harder.
That's probably, you know, a thing to integrate into that upcoming game. This one I just brought up because someone commented somewhere that this guy is Antiquitech, whatever this could mean. This is apparently like a handyman guy doing interesting stuff. I haven't really checked it out completely yet, but this can be, you know, interesting, and apparently people like it. He seemed to have been quite famous at some point, and then had a TV show, but he was self-taught or something like this. So,
dude, he's the most Cockney-looking British dude ever. Like, you can hear him talking in Cockney without even hearing him, just by looking at his mouth. Well, right, so I was just going down there, and I decided I was going to make this big.
Yeah, I think he actually talks like that. Yeah.
So I get up there. Yeah, that's cool. I like it. And so I could do like the lesser churches, and then after that, so he like fixes all these buildings. That's great. So someone had to do it. It's really cool. Flat Earth. Janos Bollier.
So this guy, I just put it into that category only.
What
because
a handsome devil! Look at that! Look at that! That's a look. Oh, and he got old.
Only
Well, it
because
happens. Dude, but
someone
look at this. Like, clearly he was a handsome devil. Like, they wanted people to know. They're like, look at that guy. He was beautiful. Beautiful Janos.
somebody mentioned that this guy actually invented, I don't know, something to do with geometry that is attributed to somebody else. So I just put him there. Oh, non-Euclidean geometry. There you have it. Which maybe is attributed to someone else, and then it's supposed to be him. I have no idea. I just wanted to put it into the notes.
Develop absolute geometry, including Euclidean and hyperbolic geometry. Ooh, very useful. That's cool. Yeah, this is probably why you can calculate everything both direction, or Euclidean, non-Euclidean, and hyperbolic. That's interesting. Which would be useful if you were trying to flatten a sphere or vice versa. Oh, and our favorite lady. Ah, she's so great, isn't she? I feel like she looks younger than ever before. And so maybe it's just the denim, but
or she's invigorated by the topics, maybe.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I love this lady.
we
Honestly,
talked
I feel
about
like we could save her. We could send her red pills. Like we
yeah,
could get her out of the
talked
matrix.
about her recently, and then I was like, oh, I want to check out some of her other videos, right? Because she recently made a fun video regarding Terrence Howard, where
Yeah,
actually she may well be, correct enough, and she's showing like, he has no calculations and this and that, and she seems, she can have her opinion. People can agree or not, but she seems to me honest, and not there just to make fun of something, which I think is great. So I would actually recommend the Flat Earth video she posted, because she's really trying to understand, and she's not putting it off in a way. And she also gives points or says, yeah, this and that is our valid points. And what's interesting, if you listen to her closely, eventually when she then says, but of course it is official NASA model, she basically always only does appeal to consensus or appeal to authority. And I'm wondering if she herself figured that out yet, because I was like, oh, I want to listen to the example, but then she just brings up something, completely random, or it's appeal to authority, appeal to consensus. Where I'm like, oh, where's the science? Dear Sabine. So
Flat Earthers Wrong But Not Stupid is 3 years ago. Like her more recent video on Flat Earthers is worse. It's called Flat Earthers Scare Me.
Oh yeah, right. That's maybe the one you brought up. Mm-hmm.
Scare. Yeah, why Flat Earthers scare me, right? And so this video is really good because it's telling you literally why it scares. A lot of people just say, I hate Flat Earthers. Like, it scares her because of the way she believes and what she believes in and everything, and like how her, like what it would mean like about a society that can't trust in authority, because she trusts in authority. And like, what if you had to, like, everything is interesting watching someone's like, everything I've learned and anything I thought, like, I used to think things like this too, but then I was taught that they were wrong, and I trusted the people that taught me that. It just blows my mind. This video blows my mind. Like, and like, look at, people are more and more interested in it. Maybe like, and I love learning. Maybe I should be learning about things. So I'm trying to study it, but it goes against everything I believe. It's just like, it's a wild ride to watch this lady. Amazing. But the saddest video she's made is this one. This is why I give her a chance. Why is quantum mechanics non-local? I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago. And like, just from the title, you can tell that you can save her. I mean, yeah, she's like learning about things that she already knew about. And she's like, well, they told me not this. And I just went down that path. But now science is starting to admit this, not admit, but like to recognize and to realize, and to be able to test these theories that were otherwise. But no, these are not theories that are new, lady. Like, these are things that we've been like demonstrating in the University of Santa Cruz, California, since, before the Jurassic Park movie referenced the chaos professors. Like, I don't know what you want. You can't just trust one university. That's probably a big thing there. But no, I really do want her I really believe that she might snap someday and like be okay.
That'd be so awesome. I want to interview her. That'd be great. So the only last thing we have is the fun debate that most people maybe already noticed. I'm not sure. Have you watched it?
I don't think I saw this one, but I should at some point. I do. I know David. You know, I've had David on my show a few times. I've interacted with Bravo once, but I don't really know him. You know, I know Alex pretty well at this point. David's cool. I don't know if David is the best, like for answering every single question that everybody wants, but he's one of the most approachable, and his app is really practical. And I like David a lot, but he gets a lot of crap, right? I was really interesting watching the debate between David and Professor Dave, because Professor Dave just trashed him the whole time. Not like the science, just personal attacks the whole time.
It was
and
really
David Weiss just, you know, he just sat through. He's like, you know, are we going to get to talking about the debate at any point? Or, I mean, is it literally just going to be like ad hominem? You know, it was interesting because he wasn't even that upset about it. He's just like, I thought maybe you had anything, you know.
Yeah. So this, you can pull it up again if you like. It's real. I think because there was a debate with, they call it American Journal and Wits It Gets It, I think, some time ago. But that was for me kind of boring. Yeah, I'll not say more. But this is very entertaining to watch, also very entertaining, I have to say. And what you can show is just the excerpt from the backstage. Oh yeah, and they even show the Old World Order movie that Sean Hibbler made, whom we had on a few months back. So they actually kind of force Alex to show the trailer for Old World Order, which talks about, you know, at least steamships, buildings. You have Michelle Gibson in it and so on. So a good topic was pushed to a large audience. And if you want to know a bit of the background, we can watch the last link, just for 2 minutes.
Where?
Top.
Oh,
Yes.
where was it? Right there.
The backstage.
Is this wrong?
Yes. Pause it.
Backstage. Yeah, that was right. Okay.
On that second, pause it, and then play it with sound.
Oh, okay.
Just for like 2 minutes. So because apparently Dave left it on, and yeah, he even and also before you start, Dave even came on a panel. Oh, I have to recommend this again on Nachiketa's channel, whom you guys saw earlier. There is something called Negative Entities with Jerry Marcinski. Jerry Marcinski does research on like psychotic individuals, voices in your head, and so on. Really, really interesting research, very interesting perspective. And then on a more recent panel, or on that panel actually, I think even on that one, if it went on for that long, Dave actually came on for a second and briefly spoke about what happened there. And yeah, he kind of said, yeah, how should I say? Alex is, you know, doing a great job basically, but just listen to this for 2-3 minutes and then it'll all be clear.
That are fucking weird. And you're like, what the fuck are you? You know, like if you look at Alex Jones doing, I've watched this interview now 7 times. He's got Duber's Delight the entire stretch of the interview. You know, so I'm like, are you okay? So you're on Flat Earth or you're not on Flat Earth. He's not showing his cards at all. He's just being kind of a tubalard with a farty face. You know, so you had to walk with that. And you got Weiss and you got fucking Eddie Bravo. They're triangulating him to get the solution that they want. And Daria's backstage telling both of them, look, this is how you do it. He's a crazy person, but you got to go at him and go at him in the right way so that he doesn't feel like he's threatened because he's a wild animal. And I mean, we're still going through this right now. I'm still going through this shit. You know, I'm like, wow, that just happened. And according to Daria, you know, the producer said, like, we had no choice. We had to cover the subject. We had to cover it. And the reaches went through the roof. So there you go. You know, you should have a video here in a minute.
Yeah, I do. I got it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't let me share. I think the internet hates us.
I think the video starts in a second. I didn't see that.
Oh, not hate. It's not hate. It's okay. The internet doesn't enjoy us. Okay, I got you. That's Nicole, by the way.
The internet sucks.
The internet is the internet's just like against us or whatever. I don't care. I don't know what this video is. I haven't even watched it yet. Weiss sent it to me, so like take a shot at it.
Let me I'm gonna have to cut my thing here. Okay. So let me present. I'm gonna share a screen. Let's see. Hopefully it'll play for this. I downloaded it too, so let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Flat Earth, if you go around and you end up in the same, no fucking pilot goes around the world like that. They go boom and they go boom and they go boom and they go boom and they go. I knew this was going to be Flat Earth. Fine, good. I love how I love how when you go on an MMA show, you'll do that. Otherwise, it's all Flat Earth. But fine. I've been on your show many times and didn't do Flat Earth. I've been on your show many times. I don't care. Knock yourself out. I've done many shows, no Flat Earth. But you're doing a great job because no one's going to say you're Flat Earth. Because you're denying it. We're arguing. Keep doing it. Keep doing that. So you're safe. You're safe. Just keep doing it. Let us get it.
Circumnavigation and airships.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
That's Eddie Bravo for you.
Yeah, so that's it.
Oh, you gotta watch.
That's not Alex.
And also,
Gianna,
actually, this is the
last
minute.
Gianna's got a couple posts here. Flat Earth Dave is never laser beam focused. I'd also say the same about Professor Dave. But Gianna's was like, Alex is controlled. Alex is trying to control us. I mean, I just like don't feel controlled by Alex Jones. And like, I like a lot of my friends who work at InfoWars. I don't like a lot of people who work at a lot of the places that, I know. So like knowing Chase, knowing Rob, knowing Seraphin are good people, like, is nice. I like Chase. I like how he laughs like a psychopath. Like his maniacal laughter is hilarious. Most of the InfoWars people are, I mean, they are who they are. Like, you live in Texas and you become kind of libertarian out of Austin in this response, and they're galvanized.
As a reaction to Austin as well. No, isn't Austin like super Democrat, the city areas? Or
So what happens is, if you're raised in Austin, you're already left to Texas. You can't help it. So Alex Jones is left to Texas, but because of the fact that you're culturally in opposition, then he's a contrarian. So he'll be right in the left. And if he goes out of Austin, then he seems very left in the right. And people get confused by that because it's Texas. Like, you go to the rest of America, they're like, oh, is Alex Jones a left winger? Because he used to be, talking about left wing causes. Oh, is Alex Jones a right winger? Because now he's talking about right wing causes. And it's like, people are missing the real point. Now, is Alex Jones controlled? Aren't we all kind of controlled in this horrible way? Like, I mean, I can't help but feel like there's things I can't say. So that would sound to me like there's a certain level of control. How good is Alex Jones at getting past the control? How willing is he to say things that won't help him? Pretty clearly, like, the guy's screwed himself over a number of times by saying things he didn't have to say, which have had pretty deep impacts on the world. So I kind of still like Alex as a person, especially. If Alex was not controlled, then Alex would cover flat earth proofs, not just moon landing lies, which Alex says somebody told him happened.
So
well, bro, I mean, like, what do you want?
No. All I can say is watch that new interview. It's really great. Yeah. And whatever, I'm not going to assume what anyone's real beliefs are or something, but it's very entertaining to watch. And you have to consider he's giving them 50 minutes out of the hour, because they said either there or Dave Weiss told us directly, I think, on that panel where he briefly joined and said, like, yeah, he only wanted to talk for a few minutes about it, but they talked the whole time. Yeah. So he gave it the space. And he even aired the Old World Order trailer, which, of course, no documentary can cover everything, but have people start thinking about steamships, look close at the buildings, be introduced to a few researchers. And Alex put the trailer on. So it's great, even though he himself then says, and people already gave me different ideas to what this really means. They kind of like, oh, show the trailer. And then Alex is like, oh, so now schizophrenic individuals are making movies, or what? Yeah. And we had Sean Hibbeler on here. He's clearly not schizophrenic or whatever, but interesting statement. And then you can look into it, double or third level or something. Very, very interesting thing that's happening. I'm happy if it brings reach, both for Alex Jones and also for the topics themselves, with at least, quite a few relevant and interesting individuals, even also Dr. Longo is in the documentary, for example. Michelle Gibson is in the documentary. So very interesting leads that would just, if people start researching it more, just, you know, open more minds, more doors, more ideas, and maybe have more people join us, you know, in trying to find out together what's happening. So I think overall it's very net positive for what happened there. And again, very entertaining. Go watch it. Really entertaining.
Yeah. Melissa, like, so Guyana's like, I'm not just going on hearsay. Melissa says he's literally owned. Well, you look at it and it's like he's about to sell his farm, sell the ranch, right? Like, you get to a point where they don't own you, I think. Like, is pretty close to not caring, like, just from personal interactions. He's pretty close to that. So I would say, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater quite yet on Alex. But yeah, for sure, like, being critical of people and really demanding, like, a lot of people, like, I get that. Remember, he is just like a media talk show host. Don't act like he's supposed to be your savior. But, you know, for a media talk show host, a lot closer to a savior than some people. I wouldn't say that you should look at any media person and be like, oh man, like, this person's not doing enough to get people to believe in the truth. Like, that's really, like, how do you like metric that? You know, it's just any amount is more than none. So that's kind of the thing. Like, showing it at all is really useful. Having David Weiss on his show to talk about it with Eddie Bravo is definitely more of a promotion than it is a criticism of the data. And Alex's Joe Rogan thing, even like considering like the asset conversation, I think someone was saying earlier, like, Joe Rogan's a CIA asset. Here you go, Johnny. Sure, maybe not. Probably to an extent. Again, like, anybody is an asset to an agency that looks at things in either hindrance or asset mentality. So whether you mean to be or not to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, again, with, you don't have as much choice as you think you do, like, over how the world uses you. And for Alex to talk about the DMT clockwork elves, luminary, metaphysical, quantum entanglement realms, the idea that, you know, from the sun to Pluto are really just the stages of the earth happening, right? Mars is post-apocalypse, Venus is Genesis, Mercurial to Pluto. You get to see everything is an arrayed projection of this holographic moment. So that's a bigger answer for everybody, because then you already are accepting the universe is flat, because you're talking about space-time foam, that it's all entangled, and that we're experiencing projection. So how hard would that be to be here and then to experience something holographically there? How hard is it for you to sit in a movie theater and to be in the movie while you're thinking about it over there? Like, this is what consciousness does. So, you know, it's interesting to me that people are so worried about the material still, because regardless, we're going to find that it's all, yeah. And yeah, Alex has brought that up, and that's valuable to, like, most people. That was the first time they heard that.
Definitely. And also what I'd like to say, so I know from someone local here, I'm not even getting into the topic too deeply, but as you know, there's certain trafficking and so on things and other things, very dark.
Okay, Gianna's upset because he shut down all biblical or religious flat earth views. Well, I'll do that too. Like, I use biblical and religious flat earth views only as like a bare supplement to say, like, yeah, and like other people have thought about this, but I'm not going to use like biblical flat earth views for science. I'll use them for philosophy, right? And I'm not saying I trust the like satanic science over that, but the idea that biblical flat earth views are somehow going to corroborate.
Who wrote the Bible? I'm sorry.
Yeah, your demonologist, King James again. So, like, I mean, you got to be really careful with Pentecostal evangelism, I think, to a large extent, because it comes out of feudal illiteracy. So you have a group of people that were forbidden from writing books, and all of a sudden they're presented with the Bible, and they're like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, this must be, no one else could do it, so it must have been from God. And, like, we can't write down things, so obviously nothing we write or live will ever be part of, like, scripture. So, this is it. This is the be all end all. Whereas if you came from like a literary background, that would just seem crazy from the beginning, because you're like, yeah, okay, these are really great people in history we respect. And they've, you know, been focusing on this, and in our generation there'll be a few, and then we'll combine them together. That's a more logical approach, right? But
yeah, so I just wanted to bring out a last thing that also what I know a story directly is that if you do report on certain things, certain very dark things also, it can even happen, like, you know, your flat is gonna be set on fire and stuff like that. So even here and then you consider the reach he has and the popularity, then it's just another layer to consider. How can you move and what is really effective?
Yeah.
And even here, how do you even relay a message effectively? And I think they really did a great job showing many different ideas. And you can literally see at one point, Eddie Bravo is even like, look, you've been through all of this, because Jones is at one point like, but it's on the record. They talk about history, like my farm, this and that, or they talk about science, NASA, this and that. And then Eddie Bravo is like, yeah, but look, now it's on the record. You owe these families $1 trillion, you know? And Jones is like, and then a few times Eddie Bravo, when Dave Weiss says something, Eddie is like, he got you. He got you. So it's really really fun to watch, yeah? And to see Alex going crazy, but in a really good way. And yeah, it's again very entertaining. Recommended to check out anyone who wants to see something like this. Yeah, I think that's it, because the last things are only in French, about air and about bioelectricity and water, and about religion. But we don't have to show those. They're in the list. And yeah, that's it.
Legit. Well, guys, this is that. We'll go back. We can look into this a bit more next time. I got to do a phone call real quick. But everybody go to the link that is available for the June 5th, 2024 show, and you can look at all these links yourself, and you can go deeper into all the stuff that we talked about today.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.